Hello all, this is the Casual New Gamer, back at you with another video, yeah! Okay, this kinda... Okay, this is the opening cutscene. Well, it's how the game starts up on Xbox. It's nothing spoilery. You could see this on on Xbox's YouTube channel, probably. I think they released this video. It's just a stop motion kind of proof of concept, maybe. If anything, I think it was. Yeah. So basically, South of Midnight, when this first was shown, I believe it was during the Xbox showcase in either 2020 during the grandiose showing of Xbox Series systems, or it might have been in 2021. They showed a snippet, and immediately what I saw, I was like, I have to play this game. This is my style. It's stop motion kind of animation, also claymation. It just looked really interesting. So eventually, when it got closer to release, they started showing, you know, excuse me, little gameplay here and there. And I was just like, oh, this just looks great. The combat worried me a little bit when I saw it because I wasn't sure about the combat. Like, it almost reminded me of like a Kena Bridge of Spirits where you clear an area of enemies and then the world goes from like disgusting, like putrid, to beautiful and vibrant, and just like a lot of... I'm gonna start the credits while we discuss this game. So it goes from putrid to beautiful. The world opens up. You get new areas. So basically, that mechanic in the game, when you clear out an area of enemies, you basically clear the path so you can move forward with your journey and your progression. So you play as Hazel Flood, who is basically a teenager who discovers along the way on her journey that she is what's called a weaver, which is somebody who can see strands of kind of like spirits and like trails of things, almost like ghostly stuff. So as you're playing the game, your motivation is to kind of not only find your mother, who gets swept up in a hurricane in your house that's in New Orleans, Louisiana. So the house is on stilts, and we understand that that area, if you understand history, was affected by a very bad hurricane, and is usually affected by hurricanes. And it basically, as a result, a lot of people, to prevent damages to their houses, built their houses on kind of like stilts to stay above the floodwaters. But in this game, a hurricane comes through. You and your mother are trying to evacuate. You go to check on your neighbors, who are somewhat nice and somewhat elderly. You're making sure they're okay. And as you go back to your house where your mother was, the house gets swept up in a hurricane. You try to run down the house to chase it down the river that it's now being pushed down. It basically it gets away from you, and you're on the journey to get back to your mother. As you keep going, you visit your grandmother, who is in trying to. Your grandmother is into like spiritual and occult things because of things that had happened. Your family is kind of estranged from the grandmother, so it's a very weird relationship. Basically, I'm sorry to keep saying I'm trying not to. So basically, you're trying to find your mother. You go to your grandmother for help who you are estranged from. Um, in your grandmother's house, you find things that call to you, these spiritual kind of like weapons that are weapons of a weaver, which the grandmother for some reason has this stuff. It calls to you, you take it, you start unlocking the ability to see like strands, which are like strings of like light and spiritualness in the environment that call to you and kind of get you to go along your journey, find stuff. So basically, at first, when I first played this game, maybe I was very hyped. I was not happy because the combat, first off, when an enemy hits you, if you don't dodge an attack correctly, you get a pretty good chunk of your health knocked off. And I was struggling a bit, even though on the easiest difficulty I was playing, I was struggling a little bit with it. Once I got in my head that I just have to make sure dodging is a priority. Like, don't try to just like button mash to like win. Like, dodge when it's the right time. And then you also get like different upgrades that you can get that kind of make the combat a lot easier. It makes you a lot stronger. You could discover, different like things in the environment that are currencies that you could use to buy your upgrades. Once all that starts coming together, as I played the game and I kept going through it, it became a much better experience and I was enjoying myself a lot more. The platforming at first I thought was a little easy until they started introducing other elements of different things that you can do for the platforming, like just like zipping to certain things, gliding, double jumping. You could take certain things that are not tangible things that you can stand on, and you could shoot like a spirit kind of thing at it that makes it tangible to be able to stand on it for a few seconds until it disappears again. So you have to kind of time that, do that right. There was a little guy which you saw at the beginning of this. His name is Crouton. He's like a little kind of like stuffed animal puppet toy thing that has a spirit that you can control and maneuver to do like certain sections of the game. There's a lot to this game. So basically, spoiler alert, I I have finished, well, not obvious, I finished the game and I very much like this game, and this game really was a pleasure to play in the end. In the beginning, let's just say it's a slow start to get used to, but the game is beautiful looking. The music, as you hear some of the music now, this is just some of the music. The music is beautiful for the game. Beautiful vocals, beautiful songs, all original stuff. Um, Folksy kind of music, church-like music. Very, very fun. The boss fights were very satisfying. I did not have a bad time in any of the boss fights. On the easiest difficulty, I believe I died once on a boss fight, and that boss fight was kicking my butt. But the checkpoints are very forgiving and very nice. Um, After you're done with combat, you get your full health, I believe, restored. I believe so, because I pretty much, when I was becoming like a master of the combat, I was pretty much having full health at the end of battles. Because also, when you play on the easiest difficulty, you get a health orb that you can replenish about half to three-quarters of your health with. When you activate it, that's on the area that you're battling the enemies with. But that thing on the easiest difficulty replenishes every 30 to 60 seconds after use. So you can't just spam it and use it. So there's a little cooldown to it. But on, I believe, any other difficulty, you only get to use that once during a battle. So if you're using that for like certain battles, like the boss battles, like you only get that once for a boss battle. So use it sparingly. So I just wanted to say this is the second time I'm doing this review because I feel like I left out some stuff. Namely, I didn't talk about the art style, which is a stop motion um claymation almost. So I feel that the game was going to have frame rate issues, that maybe it wasn't properly cooked when it was ready to be released, as maybe Xbox is possibly rushing these games to meet the deadlines, and they're maybe a little worried, after the fiasco of Redfall, that something could possibly happen again. So, I mean, I don't think that they purposely did the stop motion animation, because that kind of hides a bad frame rate, I would say. Maybe I'm wrong. Listen, maybe I know nothing about game development, and I'm really bad with recognizing frame rates. I will say that there were plenty of times during battles where I dodged and it did not respond accordingly. And I mean, it could just be me. I'm not a great gamer, so it could just be me. But yeah, so maybe they were hiding a bad frame rate with the stop motion. I will say, I very much enjoyed the stop motion. Like it was definitely very enjoyable to watch that type of animation. The game looks beautiful. It really, really does. I'm playing it on the Series X, so it's in 4K on my TV, and it looks just amazing. Just absolutely amazing. The story, like I said, you are trying to rescue your mother who washed away in your house in the hurricane. As you're trying to find her, you basically discover that you are a weaver, somebody chosen to spiritually walk both worlds, I guess is the way to describe it. So as you're playing the game, you encounter people. It's kind of like Kena, where you're trying to help people deal with grief and put to rest like bad things that have happened to them in life. So as you're doing that, you're going back and forth between the world of the living and the spirit world in different ways. Not exactly, but sort of. It's really good. It's got a storybook kind of way that things happen. Like one of the characters that you encounter that you probably saw in the trailer is a talking fish. And that's just like one of the amazing characters in the game that you encounter. Like you encounter all these kind of like monster-like characters that are just, you know, they're also people. I won't spoil how that is, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. You basically go through about 4 or 5 different enemy types, maybe 6. Those repeat pretty much in all the combat scenarios. You have a lot of traversal stuff that happens, like platforming stuff. As you learn different abilities, there are sections where you have to traverse in a timely manner because something is chasing you. And usually I don't like to be timed with things, but I only failed those sections, and there were a lot of them. There were quite a bit. I only failed those sections like maybe twice in the entire game. You just figure out exactly where you have to go, and it kind of you kind of don't get lost. Like you don't sit there and say to yourself, where am I supposed to go next? And then there's also like a button that you push to show your path that you need to go to continue the story. So it shows you like a guided path that's like a strand of like spiritual light going through the environment, and you could just follow that. So you really don't get lost if you don't need to. Like that's one way to do it. And yeah, so I have to say I very much enjoyed this game. I'm happy to say that this was a game that I was highly anticipated to play, and it lived up to the anticipation. At first, I thought, "Oh no, this is really not going to be as good as I thought," but I stuck with it, and it did not disappoint. It really was great. I gotta say, and I've beaten Breath of the Wild this year, but I gotta say, I mean, they're two different types of games. But I also played Split Fiction. Split Fiction was fun too. So I will say, when it comes to single player stories, this might be my favorite for this year. I mean, Breath of the Wild was fun for what it was, but this was a good time. Now, would I give it a score above Breath of the Wild? No, because Breath of the Wild did so many other things. But this, for what it was, like, if I had to compare this to something similar, I would compare it to Kena Bridge of Spirits. And, I mean, the combat was very much more in-depth in Kena. But this, the art style is also different. It's like trying to pick between your two favorite children, or your two children, and trying to pick a favorite. Yeah, so basically, suffice it to say, I enjoyed South of Midnight. This was a great game. I would highly recommend it. If you have Game Pass, you got nothing to lose, everything to gain. If this were to come out, even though I've beaten it, if this were to come out with a physical release somewhere, an actual physical release, not a Switch 2 game key card, but a physical release that is complete on, I guess, on disc for PlayStation, not a game loader, I would definitely double dip and pick this up. So, like, subscribe, comment. I am the Casual Noob Gamer. This video, if you're watching me live on Twitch, thank you. But this is gonna be a VOD on YouTube for when I plan for the review of this to go live. So, anyway, you have a great day and have a good one. Later.